How are you doing today? I'm finally getting to that battery thing for you, so why don't we get to it and get into the wonderful world of batteries if I can get my computer to work. Okay, nothing's ever easy in this world, huh? All right, so lecture 8, we're going to talk about the wonderful world of batteries, if it ever loads. Here we go. Should have had this up for you guys, huh? My computer's been acting up all morning. It's been taking me ever to get this done. But that's okay. It's all about patience, right? So, lecture 8. We're going to learn a little bit about the history of batteries, the different types of batteries and their components and how they work. We're going to learn how to calculate the energy derived from the batteries and determine the best use for each type. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of battery marketplace for transportation and also for solar and wind energies. These are two different industries right here. And we'll talk about the future trends in battery technology. Okay. So the first battery ever, we think, all right, is called the Baghdad battery. All right. And it was a set of three artifacts that were found together. It was a ceramic pot, a tube of copper, and an iron rod. And it was discovered in Iraq and is believed to be traced back to about 150 BC to 650 AD. All right. And its origins and purpose remain unclear. They don't know if it was used to galvanize stuff or electroplating things or some kind of electrotherapy. But there's no electroplated object known from this period. So they think, it had to be a battery somehow. All right. An alternative explanation is functioning as a storage vessel for sacred scrolls, but um, who knows? All right. But it's basically just this clay pot, just this clay pot right here. And here's the iron rod. And you would just put the electrolyte inside of the clay pot and seal it. And you have your positive and negative terminals here. And it was just like a regular battery. All right. And a lot of people, there's this thing called ancient alien theory. It said that they had electricity. Because if you looked on this Egyptian wall right here, they say this looks just like a light bulb. All right, so here would be the light bulb, and here would be the coil, okay, and this would be the Baghdad battery charging it up. And they're always wondering how to do all that artwork inside those pyramids in there and stuff when there was no flames or the light sunlight couldn't get in there. So maybe they use this battery. Still a mystery, okay. But if we go to uh, the regular battery history. All right, so we got the Baghdad battery all the way back here in AD time, and then we have the Ben Franklin in 1740 is the person that first coined the term battery, right? And he put a couple of things together to make up a battery. And then in the 1800s was the first uh, credited electrochemical cell. All right, this was the actual designed just like the Baghdad battery, and they were able to get electricity out of it. Okay, and that guy last name was Volta. So we get volts and all that other stuff from this character. Okay, and then you can see batteries just charged along. Okay, we got the invention of the rechargeable battery in 1859. So they have been around for a long, long time and have just been picking up speed until the lithium battery. All right, is what we use the most of nowadays for a lot of our stuff. Okay, came along in 1992 and really came to uh, drive the battery storage that we have today. So, what is a battery? A battery is just a collection of one or more cells whose chemical reaction created a flow of electrons in a circuit. That's it. Okay? Every battery has an anode, a cathode, an electrolyte, an electrode. electrolyte, a substance that chemically reacts with an anode and cathode to cause that negative electron to go around to negative electron to go chase the positive electron. Okay, and it just goes, and here you have your load. So you have your battery, and everybody has a different battery, okay, array that we have on our settings. Okay, everybody has a battery for your computer, for your cell phone, and your watch, and everything else. And that's all that is doing, just sending this electron around and hitting the load and going back into the battery. When this material can be used up, though, right? And there's only so much chemical energy inside of each battery, and that's what really equates the power capacity for each battery. Is how much electrolytes can you fit in there and to get that out. And now we can do some recharging too, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So the battery power equation. Sorry, I got something running in the background here. So battery power equation. Power capacity is how much energy is stored in each battery. We got to remember the laws of physics here. It's only so much size, and we can only put so much electrolytes in there to get that chemical reaction going. And so there's going to be a density, a power capacity, a limit for each one. Okay. The power is often expressed in what's called watt hours. So each watt hour equals the volts that the battery provides multiplied by the current amps that the batteries can provide for some amount of time. All right. So we got volts times amps times the hours gives us the watt hours. Okay. And this is your basic electrical equation. Okay. And batteries can be set up in a couple different ways, in a series, in parallel, or a parallel series. And then depending on what you want to do. So if you want to increase your voltage between the battery terminals, you can place the cells in series, which means stacking the cells end to end and connecting the anodes to one of the cathodes. So here you got each one of these batteries is 1.5 volts. Okay, but if we stack them in series, we can end up getting around a 6-volt load on this. All right, or we can do it in parallel. Okay, so if you have enough storage inside of your batteries to run this certain load of 1.5 volts, you can make that last a little bit longer by doing the batteries in a series. So the voltage of a single cell is adequate. You can just add the batteries in parallel just to increase its capacity for it to last a little bit longer. Or you can do it in all three ways. All right, you can, or both ways. You can do it on a series and a parallel. So here we increase the capacity by running it in series, the 1.5 right here. But we also have it in parallel, giving us 3 volts for the load. Okay, so we have extra capacity and extra voltage. And this is the way solar panels are actually, for my array, signed up. So each solar panel, right, is set in a series, and then we increase the voltage by the parallel. So if you remember those little racks, so this would be one solar cell, this would be another solar cell, all right, and then the one next to it will be just ran in parallel, solar cell, parallel into the load. Okay. So energy storage in the United States. So back in 2017, the GTM Research published a report on the state of U.S. energy storage market through 2016. And you got to remember, this is a newer industry here in the United States, so the data sets aren't too robust, I should say. The study projected that in 2021, deployments of stored energy in combination of hydrogen will grow to over 200 gigawatts, over 10 times greater its current levels of today. Right, and such a drastic increase in deployment would occur, estimating that the storage market would be worth about $2.8 billion. So the persons that are able to make these huge battery arrays or help supplement the homeowners with the batteries, it's a $2.8 billion market, which is actually kind of small in all things considered. Okay. The U.S. utility scale battery, you can see how it's increased. All right, from 2003 was hardly anything to 2019. Okay, and then we have projections coming out here. All right, and this curve fits also with the total global storage units. Okay, and you can see here is Germany's this yellow line, which is doing real good. Okay. Although battery storage is increasing, we still got a ways to go, right, to increase it to where it was. Because if you think about the global net electricity generation, right, so this is everything but the European Union, okay, we are using 300 trillion kilowatt hours, right? But here we're only saving 2,500 or 25,000 megawatts. So we're way off what we actually need uh, to store to get us through even a nighttime, all right? Or when the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing. So there's a lot of energy that still needs to be stored in these batteries. And then we got a long ways to go. Large-scale battery storage is mostly lithium-ion. So 86% of the batteries that we use are this lithium-ion, right? And the energy capacity, of course, is 83% as well, okay? So lithium ions are kind of leading the way for the batteries because they're really good rechargeable. Or let's go to this next uh, slide here. Okay, so if we even look for the batteries for cars, all right, so these lithium bios are really chargeable and they're really cheap to make. So even if you look at just the weight, all right, of the lithium bombs in kilograms, it's a lot. It's half the weight. All right, so if we're putting this in the car, we don't have to travel that weight around. Okay, energy per kilowatt hour, we get 140 watt hours per kilogram in a lithium battery. Whereas the nickel and the nickel cadmium, you're only getting 50 and 70. Okay, so you're doubling the specific energy. Okay, energy in kilowatt hours 25, 18.2, and 18. So you're increasing the kilowatt hours. And range, that means your range is going to be a lot better. So you can go, if you know, in a Tesla, I think even in Tesla, you can go 300 miles is your range, but it depends how many hills you have and things like that. So there are some variables, but still, it's almost double, or at least 50 miles over on the range. Okay, and maximum speed 120 miles per hour. So lithium batteries are definitely the way the battery industry is going. And it just makes sense because they're less weight, they hold more energy, get it that way, they get a bigger range, and they have a bigger maximum speed for the cars. Okay. And you can see also the lithium batteries, the price has definitely come down to about $190 per kilowatt hour. Okay, it used to be 12,000 per kilowatt hour back in 2008. So what a dramatic decrease. And the goal is to get it down to underneath $100 per kilowatt hour. That way it will break even and actually beat gasoline. Okay. In its price. So batteries are added to the grid via what's called a charge controller. Right. So no matter what we have, we can always have this little battery array out here. So whether it's solar, photovoltaic, or generator, the battery, the charge controller is in charge of everything. It just trickle charges these batteries to keep them at a certain capacity. So just like your phone would, I don't know if you know about the special phone settings where it just will stop for a while so your phone doesn't overcharge, or maybe it makes a trickle charge over the nighttime so you get a better, longer life of a battery. And this is what this charge controller actually does. All right, we need to also remember that batteries are always going to be DC. Just like solar panels are going to be DC, your battery array is going to be DC. So there's going to have to be an inverter also in this charge controller to send it back out to the loads if it's an AC load. All right. Your wind turbines and your generators, of course, can be AC if they wanted to. But it goes in this charge controller, it goes back into DC, charges up this bank array, for when we need it, and then trickles out again into DC, into the charge controller, through the inverter, and back out to the load. And batteries can be put in numerous different areas. Okay, so of course we can have them here for just like a solar or wind farm. Okay, and we can have the battery array out here to tie into the grid. All right. There's also you can have little substations, and you can use what's called microgrids and sustainable cities. Okay, so all these little houses, and this is what Germany is actually doing, trying to build a battery array on all for these houses, right? Or these houses can actually have them inside of their homes as well, right? And we could do this for the residential, or we can do it for the commercial. So we take a little bit of extra room down in the basement of someone's house, or one of the floors on this building here, and try to build that battery array. So we have a whole bunch of little tiny battery arrays instead of one big energy storing unit. All right. And they also talk about plugging in the cars during the day. So any extra electricity that the solar panels and wind are doing. Remember, we talked about how sometimes in Germany, the electrical rates were actually going negative because they had so much solar and wind power. We can divert that and store them in our car batteries as well. If we make that to a grid, this is kind of far off. All right, we really need to have the infrastructure to do this so everybody can plug in their car. Okay, but these little tiny microgrids and even a big energy storage substation can definitely do that. And they're definitely feasible in today's world. All right. And each one of these would have to have a charge controller on it. Okay. The batteries are the future. All right. So we're always trying to build better and bigger and longer lasting batteries. That's just the way it is. So what we're trying to do is there's little components. We kind of break it out into the wedge components. So we're trying to ensure a longer lifespan, use resource efficiently because there's a lot of minerals and stuff that go into making the batteries. Make sure the supply chain is ethically sourced. You might look up and see on the internet they talk about the canadium that's used in this, and not canadium, cobalt. That's used in a lot of the batteries, and that's not mined too ethically. But companies like Tesla do like a little pledge. Just like I don't know if you guys ever heard of blood diamonds. So companies will say, hey, well, these aren't the blood diamonds where the workers are treated unethically. All right. Low toxic materials, right? Because you've always seen the lead acid batteries, and lead's not too good for the environment, right? So it's one of the reasons why we switched over to lithium. Make them easier to recycle, right? Enable excellent round trip efficiency, so we can get in and back, all right, on one charge. Okay. Use clean energy for manufacturing and recharging. All right, so we use tie this into the grid so we can have a backup system for when the wind's not blowing, the sun's not shining. All right, and making them more energy dense. All right, so there's a lot of areas where we need to improve. And here I have a little video for you. You guys can watch on your own here. I'm not gonna sit you through it. Okay, but this just looks at some of the batteries of the future. All right, if it will ever open up for us. And it's just an article, and it lists all the different batteries that we have. Okay, so when you guys open this up on the its own little section, you can actually be able to let me review the different kind of batteries that are out there. There's carbon-based batteries. There's all these different types of batteries. Okay, so I'll let you click on that link. I don't know what's happening with my computer, so I'll let you click on that link and check out the different batteries of the future. And I don't know which one's going to make it. All right. The next big thing on batteries, all this battery running in and trying to make the best battery possible, so we can go 500 miles instead of 300 miles, may all become irrelevant. All right. And the next step in battery and in electrical storage, I guess, will be these what's called supercapacitors. and they're used in applications requiring many rapid charges and discharges cycles rather than long-term compact energy storage. So instead of having all that stuff stored in that cell of the battery, it's just one little tiny capacitor. And these are what's called supercapacitors. So they hold and can be recharged and discharged lickety split. Right? And one of the common applications is in wind turbines, where the very large supercapacitors help smooth out the intermittent power supplied by the wind. Okay, so these will get charged up real quick, and then if the wind kind of dies off for a couple of seconds, these supercapacitors will give it a big boost, all right, and then the wind will pick up, all right. Um, Also, in electric and hybrid vehicles, supercapacitors are increasingly used for being temporary storage units for regenerative braking. So when I'm stepping on my brakes, my car goes into these supercapacitors and charges them up real quick, and then they give me a quick boost when I am going from the stop sign. Okay. The motors that drive electrical vehicles often run off the power supplies rated by hundreds of volts, which means hundreds of supercapacitors connected in series are needed to store the right amount of energy for any typical regenerative brake. So we just put them in a series, all right, instead of parallel. And we just run them all up because parallel is going to give us a longer discharge, right? Because these are enough to make the wheels go around, and when we do them up in series, it just lasts a little bit longer. All right. And I also have a video here for you to let me see if I can get there it is. Oh yeah, look at this. Here we go. So we have the batteries of the future. This is the one that I'm asking you to review. All right. That wouldn't load up. Finally got out of PowerPoint. But S-Volt reveals the cobalt-free batteries. Remember, cobalt is what we were just talking about. That is one of those ethical things where they got some people not mining this correctly. Right? They're trying to get rid of that. We got lithium sulfur batteries, seawater batteries, and batteries galore. I mean, there's all these different types of people trying to engineer the better batteries. So check out these different innovations. And then also watch this little video here of researchers recently and it's called How Supercapacitors Can Make Batteries a Thing of the Past. So someday we might not even have batteries out there. It just might all be these supercapacitors making things happen for us. Okay, so give this video a watch too. It's only about 3 minutes and 52 seconds, so it shouldn't be that bad for you. Okay. So, in conclusion, batteries have been around for a long, long time, and the concept really has not changed. Okay, and it just store that chemical energy inside of there and get those electrons to flow from the negative terminal to the positive terminal and a load in between. Okay, lithium-ion batteries seem to be winning in the marketplace. That's due to the low cost of manufacturing, a little bit better to recycle, a little bit better renewable, and a lot less weight. So those little tiny lithium batteries are definitely the ones that are coming into that are making up the market share. Building a battery bank for the grid is the tasking time is that's supposed to be taking time. All right. The only battery array I know of out there, the biggest one I guess is in Australia, and that one is just huge. But there are some smaller battery arrays in people's houses and stuff, but we still need to build that microgrid that we talked about. But all these batteries might just become useless, and we might just switch over to the supercapacitor and make these batteries totally obsolete. But I'm not going to wait for that development. Just keep on working on batteries. We still need them and use them. All right, so supercapacitors aren't used in everything, I guess, but they could be definitely a definite advantage of what's going on there. Okay, so let us say get on out of here. All right, boy, do I got a lot of stuff up. I had a lot of stuff running underneath there, huh? That's just the way it is. Okay, so that's it, guys. I will probably get to that biofuel thing here in a little bit. I'm going to take a little lunch break and then start on that biofuel presentation for you. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know, and have a good day. Thanks.